Leading the dialogue with all of us over here will be Jimmy Mistry, Chairman and Managing Director of Della Group. Give a huge round of applause for Jimmy Mistry, ladies and gentlemen. He's a first-generation serial entrepreneur, designer, hotelier, adventurer, and real estate developer. He has set up 6 businesses across industries and conceptualized the Della Leaders Club, DLC. Bigger round of applause, please, for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'll be introducing our speakers in alphabetical order. We have with us Arjun Rathi, Principal Arjun Rathi Design, founder Rural Modern Glass Studio and co-founder Design Democracy as well. He's an architect working across architecture and lighting design, and he's also the co-founder of Rural Modern Glass Studio, which is India's first art glass studio. Bigger round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for him. Thank you. We also have with us Monica Chaudhary, CDO, co-founder and growth strategist, Habitat Architects with us as well. With over 3 decades of experience, Monica Chaudhary has led various design-focused business verticals, and she's specialized in hand-spun and hand-woven textile sustainability at the United Nations in New York in the year 2018, as well as Dubai Expo in 2020. Give it up for her as well again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We also have with us Kayur Patel, founder and creative director from Studio Cast Glass. He's an automobile engineer by education and a creative genius by vision. Kayur Patel is the force behind India's first luxury architectural glass art brand, Studio Cast Glass. The design has single-handedly introduced, educated, and transformed the idea of modern luxury glass art for interior and exterior spaces in India. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to give it up once again loudly for this very fascinating panel. Thank you so much. Over to you all. Thank you.
A very good evening. It's always an amazing moment to be here with friends around. Well, not just in India, but globally, fashion, art, architecture, design is becoming more 360 degrees than unidirectional the way it used to be before. It's been to such a point, my way of thinking has been different right from the beginning. 17 years back, I did a fashion show. It was at Grand Hyatt with about 1,200 people attending. And we dressed India's top models those days with architectural and construction materials. That was 17 years back, because I always believed that design is not unidirectional and you should be able to do work around design. It's there on YouTube. Somebody who's fond of it should check it out. Today, my belief is so much more into it, traveling globally, trying to see how we can blend in fashion, art, architecture, design, interior architecture, landscape, hardscape, all of it into one. Globally, every leading design house, which of course started with fashion, has moved into the space long back. And India has been a little more isolated. Indian architecture and design firms have not been working 360 degrees across. We are currently busy setting up a whole township in India near Alibag, which is almost 100 acres of fashion, art, and architecture. So that's going to be one unique proposition. And that's why today I thought we must discuss it and get to know your opinion and views and how your practices are being impacted. So let us begin with the lady on the stage who does some amazing work in India. And I follow your work. It's quite refreshing. It's quite different. How does your design practice look at professionalizing and working across all genres of design?
So we are a group of designers who come from a lot of different faculties of design. For us, collaboration in design for homes or hospitality spaces has been quite a highlight. But my background is in fashion, so my heart lies out of that space. And yes, one day I think what you just mentioned sounds absolutely magical. Would love to have a space like that in India, which goes beyond the various aspects of design and kind of marries it together. Our firm does, fashion is the only thing we don't do now, but yes, if you have a place like this, I'd love to put my hand on it.
Don't you get tempted to just, at all points in time, bring fashion out within the interiors that you do?
I really do, and we do that. Yeah, so I do a lot of, I contribute a lot into the colors, textures, and the various art forms, which are textile art forms or art on the walls, For me, design is lighting. It's also everything that one puts together. It's a lifestyle. And yes, I do get very tempted. I have to be restrained a bit by the others.
Super. My belief is in India, we need to glamorize design. Design deserves the respect in the center stage within the world of architecture and interiors that fashion enjoys, but somewhere design, architecture and interiors doesn't enjoy. Glamorizing it is one definite way out to make sure that there is more meat in this practice for future generations and the overall standards of design to improve and get them to a global level. I know you do some amazing work at your studio, and you've been trying to blend in blow molded glass and get in experts from Murano and get in experts from across, conduct workshops. It's quite refreshingly different. I don't think anybody else is working with glass at the level and with the same passion that you're working. So what is your take on it, and where do you see your practice evolve at the cutting edge of design, fashion and art?
So I think, Jimmy, I think all the design faculties in a way are almost merging. You've got fashion getting into spaces, you've got space designers wanting to do products, and I think that's the best part of sort of practicing in India currently, where I feel we're in the middle of this design revolution for the last 10 years, which we didn't have for like how Italy had it 100 years back. And we are right in that space where Indian designers have the opportunity, the chance to experiment with materials, experiment with projects. And that's what helped that transition for me, moving from architecture to lighting design, where we could experiment with material, and glass was something which just caught my fascination. And the more I got into blown glass, the more I realized we don't have the expertise for it over here, where we need to learn and upskill our guys over here. And that's when we started to collaborate with artists from America, artists from Europe to sort of come down, upskill us, and that's helped us create new languages of design. It's also very interesting of how sort of foreigners see our country in a very different way, which has helped us create new styles, new formats. And that's what we do at the Blown Glass Studio. We're always experimenting, trying new things, failing at things, and then getting better at it. And I think it's great that the current environment allows for it.
So this is what I love about our country. We come out of nowhere, we leapfrog, leaving the competition just jaw drop. We've done that in the telecom sector. We've done that in technology. And now with people like Arjun, we are going to be doing it in blow glass molding. Who knows? So what is the hub of blow glass molding in India? Is it Moradabad? Is it?
So with Firozabad, it's a very traditional industrial sort of a space where you can do industrial production. But blown glass art traditionally, I mean, even Keyur would know that it's been very slowly explored in small pockets all across the country with sort of artists. The whole idea of starting Rural Modern Glass was to start a public glass art studio where people can come collaborate, bring their ideas. I initially started it for chandelier parts, but it quickly expanded to glass art, tableware, accessories, things which I didn't imagine.
Wow.
And sort of now merging those patterns, techniques into lighting to create art glass lighting. I feel that the last 12 years we did one type of work. It's exciting for us to see in the next 12 years what we are able to create by having access to a glass studio.
Amazing. That's what I love about entrepreneurship. When entrepreneurs think of social impact and think of their fraternity and how can they take their knowledge acquired to a larger cross-section of the audience and society. You've been a legend in glass and you've been doing your bit. What is your take on where the current status of the industry is, and how is your practice kind of trying to dwell between fashion, art and architecture?
To answer your question, I'd first want to get on to the fact that first you had a fashion show for yourself, right? I mean, you conducted one. I modeled for a brand that was Cherry Blossom, shoe polish. They only showed the feet. That's how it worked with them. So coming to your question, it's been a rough ride for me, right from the beginning, from the get-go, because glass was never, I'm talking about 40 years ago, almost 39, 40 years ago. Nobody knew what glass was all about and how could you even do this. And, I had a friend who lent me a book on glass, just probably from one of the studios in America. And she gave me a Xerox copy of that. And I kept reading that all night, through months and years, to understand what glass art was all about. Little did I know that one could create something out of it. My first glass that came out of my kiln was a mishmash of a design which I believe Hafiz liked too much. And he said, hey, I like this and let's just use it. And I got a small order for about 5 square feet of the glass at that point in time. And I had to literally create glass from scratch, so to speak. There's no raw material available in our country. It's rudimentary even today. Even today, you cannot rely on the glass available in the country if you want to compete with the best quality crystal that you're talking about, lead-free or leaded glass. I had to backward integrate, create the raw material at our end first, then to create glass. This has been a rough journey for me all these years, but it's been a great learning curve. And of course, if one has gone on to doing different things thereafter, but yes, it's been a great journey all the same.
You know what's amazing? Ours is such an amazing country. Some of the most prolific perfume bottles in the world are supplied from India. Piramal Glass does that for every perfume brand in the world you can think of. And they make the finest glass bottles for perfumes across and sell it across the world.
You know, Jimmy, you know what? The models for the perfume bottles are actually made from sulfur.
Right.
The models are actually, the prototypes
Yeah.
are made from sulfur. I mean, now of course they've gone on and changed things, but they were made from sulfur earlier. That's how they used to make perfume bottles.
And yet the availability of raw material in the country is not there.
It's not there at all.
And that's why we only land up even in lights. That's why we land up creating glass, which is not something that we are proud to sell unless and until it's in a rustic environment. So the whole idea is more knowledge in the industry and trade and across disciplines to converge. That's where change starts happening.
I think more than a creative person for glass, you need to be a chemist. You need to know your chemistry very well. You need to know your math very well. You need to know everything that you never learned at school, or you probably avoided learning in school. It brings everything back into the fore, because till you don't know what chemicals are all about, you can never produce glass.
I'll just extend what Keyur is saying. The first 2 years we started our practice with at the Rural Modern Studio. Almost everything we made broke because compatibility was so important in glass. You can't mix different colors together if the clear glass and colored glass is not compatible to each other. And like going back to Firozabad, the industry is still very inorganized. You know, it's not like you've got government organizations who are supposed to set up factories and sort of try and standardize, but every factory works with their own different formula because everyone's making different products. And when you're doing glass for art, it's very specific. Like certain clients prefer impurities, many clients don't. So it's a pretty interesting market. The more you explore it, the more you like get into it, the more you want to learn, you know.
Till today, Jimmy, just to extend it from what he's saying, I mean, we're going to take it over, by the way. I tell you what.
We both are capable, don't worry.
I'll tell you what happens is, we've been battling with clients who've been exposed to glass from Murano or maybe Steuben glass or Lalique or whatever. They don't have any bubbles in there, right? Murano's probably put some bubble in there, but Lalique and others don't. They have a different methodology of creating glass. Here, in the kind of discipline that we follow, is cast glass. And bubbles are inherent part of the cast glass. They're a part of the art of the glass, quite frankly. It's not really an anomaly. It's about the glass being the way it is. Our clients just refuse to accept it. I mean, you know, they have this very, very, very shallow knowledge about what glass is all about because they've seen a Murano somewhere or they've seen a Lalique somewhere and they expect the same thing to be here. And I said, no, that's not going to work. It just won't work that way here. Our glass is different from what they create. And we are a 70-year-old economy and they are 300 years old, for God's sake. I mean, you need to understand that.
So again, in India, at all points in time within the design fraternity, I keep saying it to everybody, education of the consumer and the customer is super important because that's the only time, it's in our own interest. Even when the clients are giving a brief, they yet not know what they want. So it's our job to kind of expose them, get them into it, and then provide them, they'll start appreciating it. So this is, at the beginning of my career, I was fortunate enough to learn a lot from the Italian companies, and some of the glass companies that really impacted me and looking at the manufacturing process was FIAM, Reflex, FIAC. These are the companies that I visited 96, 97, 98, Those days, 25, 28 years back, there was nobody in India knowing anything of what FIAM stands for and what does Reflex do. It was amazing and interesting to learn, and I could never understand as to why they do, and it's so simple, why are we not able to do? The question still remains unanswered. It's part due to lack of market knowledge, part due to availability of raw materials, though now they are being imported, and part due to people not having the know-how and the technology to be able to start incorporating how do you make a single-piece glass ghost chair. And that still remains as a question mark. So your design practice, how does it help differentiate? And sometime back I spoke about creating a social impact. So does your practice work on anything to create social impact, if not in general society, just within the fraternity of design, to try and kind of motivate people to tread the lines between fashion, art, architecture?
So that's a continual process for us. It would be this process for all architects, but primarily for us, we enjoy architecture because we like the all-encompassing aspect of design there, where we look at glass and we look at wood and we look at concrete, and we love to see how it comes together and how it also differentiates with various projects that we do. And as you did say, that it kind of comes upon people like us, I mean architects for that matter, to actually educate the market, educate the vendors, and we are known for pushing boundaries with our vendors, particularly to reach that tipping point where we can actually get a piece, a kind of piece that we want at the price the client wants and at the global appeal which I think is required for the country today.
So do you push both of them?
So now,
like we hope to work together at some point, but I think the client expectation and the design expectation rarely match.
Indian
but
clients are very simple, sasta, sundar, tikau.
they are the most challenging clients to work for,
Client
Jimmy. You should know that.
not always. I beg to differ. Not always. Yes, we come from a economy and we also come from a history where sasta and tikau works for us for multiple reasons if you look from our history. But the way the world has changed, and India has changed tremendously as well. Unfortunately, it's only a tip of the iceberg which I'm talking about at this point. But we are not as price sensitive as we used to be when it comes to art and culture now. Because it has also become a status requirement for the client, if you don't mind me saying it, that having a particular kind of art or getting it from different parts of the world, it also gives them a sense of accomplishment because they've already reached that top of the iceberg where
Aspirational luxury.
Aspirational luxury, really.
I believe you. So I keep saying it again and again across all my businesses. India is a very poor country filled with rich people.
Well, that's
So there is-
very aptly put, kind of hurts me a bit.
There is always
Every
somebody
time I
ready to
accept
pay you
it.
whatever price. There's nothing too expensive for an Indian on a global platform.
I'll tell you a funny story. What happens usually in our country when you have interior designers taking up these sites, which are huge budgets, they have nice budgets, and in the duration of the site completion, they make about 4 or 5 trips abroad with the designer for selection of furniture and whatever, right? So that's an easy 25, 30 lakhs blown up on travel, business class and staying in hotels and coming back. Now there's a different take that I have on this, which is why I'm saying this. When the same client comes back here, and you figure out that this man's fighting with a POP wala for 20 bucks a square foot. Now how does that work? Tell me one thing, how does that work? Now, in our country, till such time that art or any form of art, whether they are the carpenters, they are the POP guys, they are the furniture guys or the glass guys like us, or if we are not respected for our craft or our art, whatever that be, it's never going to be that this is going to flourish in our country. It's very nice to say that, art is flourishing, fair enough. Huge amount of art has happened in the airport, which is a very good take, since never happened in public areas, but still that is confined to a building. Now a new airport that's coming up, I have heard that they're going to have a lot of art happening over there also. But my question is, yes Alfaz, thank you for that. But my question is, what is happening between those two buildings? Between those two airports, where is art happening in our country? Where is public art? Where are spaces? Where are public parks? Where there can be art parks? There's nothing of that kind happening in our country. That's the sad part of it.
So the difference between India and China in terms of new generation buildings coming up, China's focus is very clear. Not just beautiful and fantastic buildings, all buildings are accompanied by public art displays.
Precisely.
And they are not just statues of, you know who I'm talking about, dime a dozen and hundreds, and even every day more and more. Pune airport opens up and more statues. Everywhere there are more statues. And there is no space for contemporary, for
It sucks.
eclectic.
In our country,
For
I'm sorry.
various
May I
artists in public
interject in
spaces.
this? Yes, I agree with all of you very much. But if I look at it from our perspective, as I did say, it kind of comes upon architects to be, offering it out there. The difference why a lot of us, do take our clients who can afford to put that kind of art in the hospitality spaces or the airport spaces or, for that matter, luxury residential spaces is because we lack that finesse and we lack that quality of display and putting it across there. What we end up getting when we go to India to find, and we do use a lot of vernacular art, it's a huge challenge because we have to do the exercise. We are not so vernacular in terms of our design language. So we love the way the things are done, but the end product takes a lot of our time. I wish we had, and I'm putting a little bit of onus on artists here, I wish, please get it out. India needs to be known for what it does. It still is known for doing chicken curry, it is known for doing fulkari, it is known for doing blown
Handicrafts.
glass out of Firozabad for that matter. So if one is trying to do things at a global scale and we want to put India there, then we need our artists to also rise up to that occasion.
So I think like a lot of artists are exploring the traditional crafts in a very contemporary manner, and I think that's something
I
what.
agree. I did
yeah,
not
what
mean
we've
that
been-
one
yeah.
is
Fusing
not.
it together.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I meant was to see public art in every part of India.
Right.
We need to have more people doing that. With
think
due
so.
respect to who are already doing.
I
I'm
think
not
one of
questioning that.
the exciting parts of what I see with India in general is a lot of the tier 2 cities and tier 3, they are exploring art in a very, very interesting way because they have the luxury of space which we don't have in our urban centers. So
Jimmy, if I
There's
just...
a huge
if-
scope,
We
huge
do a
scope
lot
for
of
art to
work in
move to the
those-
next point. Sorry, just we are running out of time. We'll do still one more round of very quick round of what we think. But this is my belief. I am a firm believer in Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India. Completely subscribe to it. However, Make in India cannot truly really happen unless and until you design in India. And that's the role the design community and fraternity needs to play.
To design in India, you also need to be producing in India. To be producing in India, you need to have the back end, which is there. We are designers who draw. There are a lot of designers we are talking about who do art. We put so much of art as we do a lot of work in 2-3 tier cities of the country. So we do have the luxury of this space, yes.
Okay, so very quickly, one final round of comments. If you had your way out within the country, how do you see blending in fashion, art, and architecture? This goes to all three of you.
So if I had my way to blend these three faculties together, I would call it foremost requirement is the will for people to do it and facilitate this. We are very happy to do it. We try to do the most. If I am allowed to, I don't even look at the commercial aspect of it, to design areas in terms of public spaces, parks, sides of the beautiful sea Mumbai has, and various aspects. We would love to design and collaborate with artists with whom we can think alike and align in that look and create something absolutely beautiful. We don't have to be India, the India that we know, and I so believe if we can do it and make it.
When is the
India.
fashion range starting?
Well, when are you giving me a platform?
Okay, yeah, you can clap for her. Come on, guys.
no,
Arjun, what about you?
And not just fashion, it should be in every aspect.
Of course, yes. Fashion, art, architecture, design in every aspect. Product design.
as I said earlier,
graphics.
like, the lines have practically blurred, Jimmy, already of like fashion, art and everything. Like, I think like, I feel that we're in the best environment where all these four faculties can coexist together in spaces, in projects, and that's what I find very exciting. We recently collaborated with a jewelry designer to make some glass jewelry where they were working with silver and we were adding blown glass to it. We've got so many collaborations that are like happening with textile designers. So I feel that the exciting, and I feel the next 25 years are where with all these 4 faculties and really something very unique.
Next 5 years. Everything of 25 years needs to be put in the next 5 years. For India. Good.
Arjun,
Final words.
Age is on his side, so he can afford to say it. 3 of us, it's a different story altogether. Having said, I think fashion, of course, as in fashion, when you have Sabyasachi or you have a JJ, Abu Jani, Sandeep Khosla, they are, they are at a different level altogether. The real artisans behind them are the guys who do and the embroidery work, or Manish. So they are the unsung heroes, if you ask me. One who should be celebrated more than them. Similarly, if you take architecture, pyramid, it starts at the top and it filters down with every other agency, and I hate for some reason. Every in the field of architecture is referred to as a meaning of the word vendor. Merchandise out on the streets. We don't do that. So we're not vendors. I take serious offense to that. I tell this to my friends, my architect friends, that if you refer to me as a vendor, I'm not going to take up your job. I'm sorry.
Point taken.
Yeah, please. Thank you. So you know, architect is like that. It's a collaborative effort of everybody. It probably is one person's imagination and thought. It's put into tangibility with everybody else's efforts. And similarly in artwork, basically an artist probably starts with the pyramid inverted. He starts with the expanse of a thought here, and then he has to bring everything down to a point and then put it out on the canvas. The sad part is that the sculptors, per se, have a better opportunity for visibility in our country because they can actually have their work shown inside the building and outside as well. We just don't seem to be seeing any more sculptors in the country. Haven't even heard of any, excepting for Arzan, who's a dear friend. He's a fabulous sculptor. But how much of a chance has he got? You know, I joke with him. He's a Parsi and he's got a fabulous sense of humor, and I can joke with him that probably the only piece of sculpture which has taken the country by storm and probably get an Oscar is a pile of dolphins, one over the other, on a mound of grass. Now, what are dolphins doing on a mound of grass? I don't know. So, yeah, but that happens on traffic islands. That's where Max is our place for exhibiting our art is just that.
Okay, we are already out of time. Final, my take on it, what my vision and aim and ambition for our country is, and before the end of my career, I hope I'm able to achieve it. 77 years of India's freedom. We haven't produced a single consumer-facing, high-end, cutting-edge design brand out of India. And there are consumer-facing brands, Taj and Oberoi's, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to consumer-facing, high-end design brand, specifically in interior architecture and luxury, it's my dream to be able to take such a brand to the global markets, start selling in New York, London, Milan, not handicrafts, cutting-edge, new-age design and technology. So that's my vision and dream. Hope during my lifetime I'm able to kickstart it and achieve it. But thank you all for being here and being a part of this discussion. I'm sure there have been some thought-provoking statements by 3 of my amazing speakers on the platform. We are out of time. Do we have time for one question? One? Yeah, sure. Please do. One question? Yeah, please go on. Let the lady finish first.
Just give me a moment.
Looking at it.
You are definitely an artist, not a vendor. I endorse that.
Thank you.
No, so
Hey, Nisha.
from now onwards, I am kind of putting a thing forward for you. You have an opportunity to create a platform like that. Do it. I'm sure all 3 of us sitting on this platform and many more
Thank you.
would be so happy to join hands together to create
Thank you.
something which the world can look upon from India.
It's soon launching, I can assure you. Just hold your horses for a month or 2, and it's going to be big, big, big. And I want India there in New York. I want India there in London. And that's why I take the pains every 40 days, 45 days to be physically there, because you can't sit here and do anything on global platforms. You need to be there. And I hope I'm successful. and support
We are
from
waiting for
fraternity
you
like
to
you
go
all.
because we've all called our children back from New York here
It's
to work
everybody's.
on the back
It's
end.
everybody's. It's a platform for Indians. It's not a platform for me. So that's what we are working on. Yeah, you had a question.
First of all, I'd like to say that the gentleman who's operating is capable of building the Indian Burj Khalifa.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
For people who don't know Jimmy Mistry, I have to go back 2 decades. This gentleman could be on a mountain in the most unbelievable hazardous roads, 2 kilometers from the Wadia Bungalow at Lonavala, and could be in the heavy rain, and stood there on the mountain and said, that's where my soaring will happen, that's where my Swiss cow will be, that's where the archery will be, and that's where my bungalows will be built, and that's where the Dela resorts will be built. And 2 years later, Jimmy, you did it.
Thank you.
I love you for what you did. Your job was amazing. And the building that you're building in Nagar looks like a fire engine.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We are out of time. Love you all. Thank you for supporting us and keep showering the love.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A bigger round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for all of them over here.